my name is Alice, and I'm a second-year psychology student at McGill, located in Montreal, Canada, and today I am the co-host for Aging Well, and we're going to have a conversation with the lovely and unique Ellen Langer. So Ellen is a professor in the first female tenure at Harvard University, and she is conducting research on mindfulness and mindlessness. She's often referred to as the mother of mindfulness, and this is a subject that is further highlighted in her new book, The Mindful Body. So we will now be speaking with her over Zoom. Hello, Professor Langer. How are you today?
I'm good. Hi, Alice.
So where are you right now?
Right now, I'm on Cape Cod in Provincetown, Massachusetts.
How long are you going to be there for?
Until tomorrow. A quick visit.
That sounds nice. Tell me about your research on mindfulness and mindlessness.
Well, okay, so I have been working on mindfulness since at least 45 years, which is why they call me the mother of mindfulness. And it's very interesting, even though everybody now is familiar with the term, many people don't realize what I actually mean by it. It has nothing to do with meditation. Meditation is fine. It's just something different, right? Meditation is a practice that you engage in to result in post-meditative mindfulness. Mindfulness, as I study it, is more immediate, right? And it's not a practice. It's just a way of being. Now, all you need to do is actively notice new things about the things you think you know. And then you come to see, gee, you didn't know them as well as you thought you did. And because it's new, then your attention naturally goes to it. The bottom line of a lot of this is that people need to understand how ubiquitous uncertainty is. Uncertainty is the rule, not the exception. Everything is always changing. Everything looks different from different perspectives. So when you think you know, you're probably wrong. Okay, correct in some contexts, but wrong in others. For example, I often start lectures and I'll ask people, okay, so Alice, tell me how much is 1 and 1?
2.
That's right. That's what most people say, but it isn't always 2. If you were to add 1 pile of laundry plus 1 pile of laundry, 1 plus 1 is 1. Add 1 cloud plus 1 cloud, 1 plus 1 is 1. Add 1 wad of chewing gum plus 1 wad of chewing gum, 1 plus 1 is 1. So in the real world, 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 as often as it does, or perhaps even more often. And so when we recognize that even the simple thing that we thought we knew better than anything else varies as a function of context, we sit up and we pay attention. All right. Now, another thing that people don't realize about mindfulness is it's easy, it's fun, it's the essence of engagement. As you're actively noticing things, the neurons are firing, and 45 years of research has shown us that it's literally and figuratively enlivening. So Alice, you asked me where I am right now. If you came to visit me, and chances are you've never been to Provincetown, Mass, but even if you have, you've never been to my house, that I'm sure of. So when you come to my house, you're going to look around, you're going to notice. You don't have to practice it. It's not tiring. You're going to try to figure out who I am by why do I have that painting up and this book here and so on and so forth. All right. So when you add all the things that we'll talk about today, all of the advantages to being mindful, and you see how easy it is, and that in fact it's energy begetting, not consuming, people after today's show should have very little reason not to try to be mindful all the time.
That's very fascinating. It makes sense that to do that is sort of intuitive, but I do wonder, is it not that over time it would become a little bit more tiring, like when you focus on one task for too long?
No. Well, do you have a favorite sport?
No.
No.
I don't really have
It doesn't matter. Do you have a favorite person that you really enjoy?
Yeah, of course, I've got
Sure. And every time you see that, it's the same person, but every time there are slight differences. And so every time you're with that person, you're enjoying yourself. You don't get tired. The times you get tired is when you think, now I know it. You know, if you knew what I was going to say next, why pay any attention to me? So when we realize that we don't know, then we're in we have a chance to exploit the power in uncertainty. And it's enormous. You know, most people are just not there. They're sealed and unlived lives. They respond like robots, and if I ask somebody again, how much is 1 and 1? They don't stop and think. They just say 2. Very often, even if you're suffering and I say to you, how are you? You say, fine, thank you. That we're taught to be mindless. We're taught to think we know. We're taught facts, but we're not taught that these facts vary. So let me give you an example. This changed my life. Many years ago, I was at this horse event. And your audience needs to know that I'm Yale, Harvard all the way through. And I'm not bragging. That's just important for the story. So this man comes over to me and asks me, can I watch his horse for him? Because he's going to get his horse a hot dog. Well, being as smart as I am, I know horses are herbivorous. They don't eat meat. Right? Because this is what I was taught, straight A student, right? He came back with the hot dog and the horse ate it. And that's when I realized that everything I think I know could be wrong. In fact, the students who weren't quite as good as I, who didn't memorize as much as I might actually, in not being so sure of the facts, stay more mindful more of the time. But the research we've done says virtually all of us are mindless most of the time. Mm-hmm. So in study after study, we make people more mindful, all different ages. And what we find when we do it with an older population is they live longer, they're healthier. When you're mindful, you're alive, you're charismatic. People see you as charismatic, authentic, so your relationships improve. And it turns out that the things that we do when we're mindful bear the imprint of our mindfulness. So they're valued more. So in every way, given how easy it is and the strong advantages, I suggest that we put our certainty aside and start actively learning about our world.
So if mindfulness is so easy and in your words it seems to be relatively intuitive, why is it that most people are mindlessness? Is it that we're taught?
That's a good question, Alice. And the primary reason is that's what we're taught. You go to school and they say, here are the 3 reasons for, in the United States, here are 3 reasons for the Civil War. As if, it doesn't matter from whose perspective or whatever. We're taught 1 and 1 is 2. We're taught horses don't eat meat. We're taught absolutes. And if you know something in an absolute sense, there's no reason to pay attention to it. And what people need to realize is that none of these absolutes are really absolute. And that makes life more fun.
So
it's only more fun, though, because lots of people say, when I don't know and I think you know, then I pretend and then I'm scared. But that's because they're making a personal attribution for uncertainty. They're saying, I don't know, but it's knowable. So now I'm giving everybody permission to make what I call a universal attribution for uncertainty. I don't know, you don't know, nobody knows, nobody can know for sure.
Wow.
And then not knowing feels different. We don't feel stupid, we don't have to hide, we don't have to pretend.
That's a beautiful way to live. And it sounds like a lot of this is going to be discussed in your new book, The Mindful Body. I would love to talk more about that after the coming break.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Life can be stressful. I know that. We're here to help you. Simple, easy recipes, amazing guests. At Home with Chef D, Wednesdays, 6 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I don't care what the law is. I will never be a slave. That word, I hate it. It rests on my tongue like rot.
Peter, how does it feel to get paid for your work?
There are rumors freedom's coming for us all.
Freedom, you know that's all I want.
Chloe, careful. Vrooman would rather sell you across the river to America than let you go free.
Then I'll run.
I've run before. Maybe this time for good.
No! Just get her into a boat. No!
Chloe! Chloe, no!
spirit of Chloe Cooley's resistance led to Canada's first legislation limiting slavery. After 200 years, slavery was abolished in Canada in 1834.
Welcome back, everyone. We were just talking to the wonderful Professor Langer and about her Mindful Body new book. Let's talk about that.
Well, you asked me a moment ago, or I was talking a moment ago about the importance of uncertainty. Once we recognize that we don't know, all sorts of possibilities open up to us. And it's those possibilities for our health and well-being that I discuss in the Mindful Body. One of the greatest causes of illness, I believe the greatest cause, is stress. And what many people don't realize is stress is psychological. And when you're stressed, you're saying on some level, something is going to happen. And when it happens, it's going to be awful. And both of those need to be questioned because we can't know what's going to happen. So if you simply said to yourself, what are 3 reasons it might not happen? All of a sudden, you'll realize that, maybe this bad thing won't happen. Now, you say it's bad. Nothing in and of itself is good or bad. That is the way we interpret events. So if you said, what actually might be 3 advantages if this thing happens? And you're always able to come up with them. An example I'm fond of using, Alice, you and I go out for lunch. The food is great. Wonderful. We've had a nice meal. You and I go out for lunch. The food is awful. Wonderful. I'll eat less. All right. There's always a way to see a situation in this positive way. So when you do that, then events happen, and whatever happens, you're going to make it work for you. And stress is severely, enormously diminished. But a major thing that I describe in this book is a discussion of mind-body unity. Now, people talk about mind and body as if these things are separate and you could hold them and whatever. And they're just words. And I say, let's put them back together. And when you do that, wherever you're putting the mind, you're necessarily putting the body. Well, we did a study many years ago that your listeners might be interested in. It's called the counterclockwise study. I'll tell you about that. And then many of the new studies that are reported in the Mindful Body. So what we did was we retrofitted a retreat to 20 years ago. And we had old men live there for a week as if they were their younger selves. So they would be discussing the past as if it's happening right now. All right. This very simple intervention had phenomenal consequences. As a result of putting their minds back in time, their vision improved, their hearing improved, their strength improved, their memory improved, and they looked noticeably younger. This was the first test of this mind-body unity that shows, my gosh, we have so much more control over our health and well-being than people might realize. Now, I have lots of these studies. I'll just pick one almost at random. Let's say we have a wound healing study. Okay, so most of us are led to believe you get hurt, your body will heal whatever time it takes to heal. Well, what we did was we created a wound, not a gigantic wound because we didn't want to hurt people badly, but a wound nonetheless. And we had a third of the people sitting in front of a clock that was going twice as fast as real time. A third of the people were sitting in front of a clock that was going half as fast as real time. And for a third of the people, it was real time. And the question we're asking is, did their wound heal based on real time or based on perceived time? And it turns out it was based on perceived time. Our thoughts are enormously powerful if we only thought to use them.
Wow, that's absolutely impressive. I do wonder, are there any limits to what mindfulness can do? Because these are quite drastic changes.
Yeah, no, they're very big. And I think it's probably best at this stage to just assume virtually anything is possible. Why impose limits? Let's just go forward. And if we try something and it doesn't work, all we should do is try something else. right? We used to think the mile couldn't be run in fewer than, 4 minutes? And then somebody ran it a few seconds faster and somebody else a few seconds faster, so on and so forth. I think that we have lots of information that says that our healing is up to us. One that's kind of inside out, but just bear with me. I call it the borderline effect. And so let's say, for argument's sake, that the expiration date of this donut was 2 minutes ago. All right. But you want to eat that donut. No one in their right mind would think you're going to get sick from eating the donut 2 minutes after the expiration date, right?
Right.
Okay, so there are health effects here. Let me give you one more example. Let's say you and I both take an IQ test, and you do just fine. You get a 70, which is normal. I get a 69, which means I am cognitively deficient. No one would think there's a meaningful difference between 69 and 70, right? I could have sneezed when I read a question. There's so many ways of explaining that are just noise. But once I'm called cognitively handicapped and you're normal, if we check back 6 months later, and then a year later and a year after that, there are going to be very big differences between us. Okay, so for every disease, there are people who are right above that cutoff point where they're told they have the disease, and those who are not different in any meaningful way, in the example I just gave, who are told they don't have the disease. Okay, so you're told you have it or you don't have it, but you're not meaningfully different. Now, what happens is when you think you have it, then your psychology takes over. And when we tune back in, you end up sick. And the person who, not different from you initially, but was told they don't have cancer, diabetes, whatever the disease is. Okay, so if the two groups are not meaningfully different at the start and are meaningfully different at the end, it could only be our psychology determining the difference.
Wow, it's amazing what the mind can do. That's absolutely fascinating. So if we're talking about the importance of mindfulness, would you say that one should always be mindful? Is mindlessness always bad?
I believe mindlessness is always bad, which is hard for people to accept. That I think that mindlessness would be good if two conditions were met. One, you knew the very best way of doing something, and two, circumstances were not changing. And I don't think either of those can ever be the case.
Right.
If you're going to do it, be there for it. And then somebody says to me, well, but isn't mindlessness faster? Well, not really. So let's say you're taking a little kid to a park and you're mindless. And now this poor little 2-year-old is wandering into the street. Somebody might say, isn't it better just to mindlessly grab the child and, bring her to a safe sidewalk? And I say again, no, because first of all, you want to know how to grab her. You want to pay attention to the oncoming car. So you know to take her to the right or to the left and so on. And being there for the whole event may take milliseconds more, which virtually never matters.
Right.
But again, that when we recognize that being mindful is the essence of engagement, it's what you're doing when you feel good. Why would you want to be mindless? And even a simple thing, you're reaching for this cereal from the shelf, right? And you pour it in the bowl. So you might say, Professor Langer, really, do I need to pay attention? And I say, I make everything a game. I say yes, because when that cereal was packaged, who knows, what was going on. There might have been a little metal nut that fell into the box that now is going to fall into your, cereal bowl, which you're unaware. And that'll be good for your dentist, but not good for your teeth.
Wow, well, let's talk more about the importance of constant mindfulness after this break.
Remembering the Children, National Day for Truth and Reconciliation will honor residential school survivors, their families, and communities. On September 30th, honor the journeys and the wisdom of Indigenous elders, share their cultures, and inspire our children as we share the commemorative gathering live from Parliament Hill in Ottawa.
Your safety matters to us. Did you know that working smoke alarms is essential for protecting you and your loved ones from the dangers of fire? In Ontario, it's law to have working smoke alarms on every level of your home and outside all sleeping areas. Test your smoke alarms monthly to make sure they're functioning correctly. Let's all do our part in being fire safe. Join us September 28th for Test Your Smoke Alarm Day. It's a perfect time for everyone to test their smoke alarms together. For more information, visit us at cambridge.ca, call us at 519-621-6001, or visit us on Twitter at CambridgeFD.
So welcome back, everyone. I wanted to ask you, Professor Langer, how did you start all of this?
Yeah, there are things that happened when I was younger that over time built up to lead me to the theory of mind-body unity. The first was really bizarre. I was married when I was very young, and I went to Paris on my honeymoon. And I was trying to be very grown up. So we're in this restaurant, and on the menu was mixed grill. So I ordered the mixed grill, but among the things that were on that plate was a pancreas. And now that I was all grown up, a sophisticated woman of the world, the question was, could I eat it? I had to eat it because I had to now be a grown woman. So the plate comes, I asked my then husband, which was the pancreas. He pointed to something. I'm a big eater, so I eat everything else with gusto. Now comes the moment of truth. Can I eat the pancreas? So I start eating it, and I'm getting really nauseated. I'm feeling sick. I don't know that I can eat the whole thing. Meanwhile, he starts to laugh. And I said, why are you laughing? And he said, because what you're eating now is chicken. You ate the pancreas a long time ago. All right. And so there we had a very clear physical reaction, but it wasn't to, some new food. It was, to one of my favorite foods. So clearly our minds control it. Then, not a funny story, but an important one. Now I'm a little older, and my mother had breast cancer, and the cancer had metastasized to her pancreas. Well, that's the end game, right? And, so very sad. Yes. And then magically it was totally gone. Well, how could it be there? And the medical world couldn't explain it. And this mind-body unity idea does explain it. And I think people need to realize that spontaneous remissions are probably not nearly as unusual as the medical world thinks. First of all, there are so many people out there that have all sorts of diseases who don't even know they have them. And, you have a tumor, you don't know you have it, then the tumor is gone. You don't know it's gone because you didn't know it was there in the first place, and so on. And it's also the case that even if you went to the doctor and, you were diagnosed with something, and then you go home, once you're feeling fine, the first thing you can do is not call the doctor to say, hey, guess what? I'm feeling fine. You're just going to live your life. So I think that if people realize that spontaneous remissions are real, then they can be hopeful in situations that otherwise may seem more than dire.
Wow.
It's also the case that people need to understand that medical science, all experiments can only give us probabilities. When you do an experiment, if you were to do the exact same thing again, which you can never do exactly the same thing, even if you were to run it, Alice, now you're a day older. Okay, so it's not exact. But that even if you could do exactly the same thing, all you're going to find is that the results that you got are likely. They're not absolute. All right. What that means is science gives us maybes. The medical world, teachers, parents, magazines, journalists translate those probabilities. Horses don't eat meat, right? The probability most horses seem not to eat meat becomes absolute. Horses don't eat meat. All right. Cancer is a killer. As you get older, your vision gets worse. As you get older, you become more forgetful. These are things that are true sometimes, but not necessarily true. But if we believe that they're true, they become self-fulfilling prophecies. Forgetfulness is very interesting because people of your age, when you forget something, you don't think, oh my gosh, am I getting dementia? People of my age, when they forget things, that's the first place that they go, which then becomes very stressful and has another whole set of negative consequences, just believing that. But I'm a professor, as you introduced me. I give exams, and these are Harvard students. They are the best in the world, some would say. And most of them, none of them actually get 100% on whatever exam I give, meaning that they forgot. So when you're young, you don't infrequently forget either. It's just when you're older and you forget, you worry about it. And people don't realize there's so many other explanations for why we may forget. So the worry about memory loss is exaggerated. And again, these things become self-fulfilling prophecies. You believe that when you get older, you fall apart. So you hurt your wrist. What do? You take care of it. I hurt my wrist, or my wrist hurts. And I say, well, what do you expect? I'm old, so I'm going to fall apart. Now, if I don't do anything and you do something to fix your wrist, of course, in a month, your wrist will be fine and my wrist may get worse and worse. All right. So our expectations for how we're going to be determine, what we do, not just stress, but whether we take measures to make ourselves better. I think that we should treat ourselves at 80 basically the same way we did as at 30. That you don't say, well, it doesn't matter because I'm that much closer to death. And in some sense, it matters even more. Because days may be fewer. And again, sadly, none of us know. Young people get hit by cars, terrible things, tragic things happen. So the idea is to make each moment matter. And the way you make it matter is to be there. And the way to be there is this act of noticing.
Yeah, it was so wonderful to talk to you. I hope our viewers will understand the importance of mindfulness. It seems like it'll be a very valuable thing for everyone to try out. And please check out Professor Langer's new book, The Mindful Body. Okay, well, it was wonderful to talk to you today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you to the viewers as well for tuning in to us.
Call the Rogers TV Viewer Response Line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Understanding human nature can be a superpower.
The first 48 hours are critical.
What kind of idiot are you?
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today,